Hey, thanks for checking out this episode of Kontent Waves, a podcast about content-led innovation and the people in the space who are doing some really, really cool things. This podcast is brought to you by the team at Kontent.ai, a leading content management system that helps organizations solve their most complex content challenges. I'm your host, Monica, and I'm really excited for today's conversation because it's with my colleague, Matej Zachar. At Kontent.ai, he is our CIO and CISO, and we brought him in to talk about AI. Matej takes a really nuanced, measured approach to AI adoption for organizations. On the one hand, he's really excited and optimistic about what it can do to augment human productivity. But on the other hand, he wants to make sure organizations are very mindful about the vendors that they work with and the security of their implementation. He has some great tips, some great thoughts, and I'm really excited to share this conversation with you. Enjoy! Hey, Matej, I'm so glad that you could join us on our podcast today.
Hello. Hi, Monica. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How's it going?
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Cool. So we want to dive right in to the topic today. So you lead the IT and security team at Kontent.ai, which actually has achieved compliance and certifications such as ISO 27001, SOC 2, and even HIPAA. But you've also built a responsible AI framework that Kontent.ai uses today. So would you mind sharing with our listeners how you became a leader in the space?
Yeah, sure. And th thank you for having me. So I think our journey started at the very inception of Content.ai, where we decided that we wanted to build something that is secure by design and respects and protects all the customer data, because we feel that we are being entrusted with customer content and loads of data, and we need to take that responsibly, right? And because AI is in our name, and we started experimenting and working with more and more large language models and then artificial intelligence implementations in various scenarios in our product and internally. We needed to come up with ways how we can actually do that in a secure manner, right? So being there when it was all happening and being still there, it's I suppose how we got to get involved in all those topics and come up with solutions and come up with ways how to on one hand protect data, on the other hand also bring that trust to our customer relationships, so they can know that we do our job diligently and protect their data. So we've been through various certifications, we've been through building up processes and building up the entire program in order to achieve that basically. And yeah, and I'm super glad that I had a great team that was able to take that challenge on and basically do it.
Yeah, so sounds like you've been busy. Um, so I
Yeah.
wanted to ask a little bit about, AI has been in that conversational sphere for a really, really long time. There's a lot of hot takes right now, especially, also some thoughtful discussions. But do you recall maybe like a specific moment or that you felt like, okay, it's finally starting to deliver on its promise for businesses, for companies to really bring it in and utilize it?
Yeah, and you're right. Like it's been a while that we started talking about AI and especially those kind of conversational and chatbots and those kind of use cases. But I think what we faced in a beginning were challenges with the quality of content in terms of being generated, right? In terms of like how it hallucinated, how much it hallucinated, how much prompt engineering you needed to do in order to get your answer, how little sources were referenced or whether it actually like disclosed where it got the answer from, right? So those were the early challenges, and I think I cannot remember a specific moment where the changes changed, but it like over time the models as they are getting better and better, and there's tremendous work being done and those models creators in order to explain themselves better, in order to reference themselves better. So I don't think there was like a turning point, but like over time, we just became more and more aware, okay, now we can apply AI to new use cases where we thought that it was not so great before. So I think so I think we are living in a very exciting space, a very exciting era because those changes are being delivered. I'm not talking about decades. I'm talking about right like months. That these things were really happening and they still are right. So we now have the birth of well, not like entirely birth of agents, but we definitely see that agents are being used more and more in different workflows, and now we have frameworks in order to utilize them a little bit better. And they can also challenge, themselves, and it can become a little bit more sophisticated implementation that actually takes into account and applies some of those quality checks and controls that you would want it to have, right? Like so you can have a one agent researching something, another agent doing a critique of it, and then just working with the result, which gives you way more quality and less hallucinations being there. So so yeah, so I think this is what really makes it special in the field, and what really makes it exciting is that ever-changing landscape, and also more and more use cases that you can automate or yeah, use AI for basically.
Hmm. Yeah, what I also really like talking about AI with you specifically is that you often temper that excitement and that optimism with a little bit of, grounded reality too. So you definitely see the potential. You are excited and optimistic, but you have to always take that step back because you are part of an IT and security sort of operation. That you have to give people the I would say the reality check as well about what needs to be done to make sure that AI is not only adopted enthusiastically, but also successfully. So can you share with our listeners how you think businesses should approach AI to be actually successful?
Yeah, it's so yeah, so there are a couple of points, right? Like definitely being excited is the first is the first important part. And like cautiously excited, I think as you may point out, is probably like what you should be doing. Like one of the things that, so you definitely need to see a potential in AI, and I do, and I do see it, and many people do, but like I sometimes I meet people that are very very cautious and tell me, hey, like actually, like we've tried using it, and it's not really great for our use cases. So I would really just point out that it's ever evolving, and it's great to experiment with new models. It's great to experiment with the new tools that are being created, and just get yourself out there because if you don't, you're just gonna miss the train, and because everything is really moving so quickly. So there's one thing, like being excited, and then obviously choosing the right tool for the job, and choosing the right approach. Definitely making sure that you start with use cases that are not so critical for you, but it can bring business benefits fast. For example, you can do that. Like a good example is content creation, right? Because you would still want some human to be out there when the content is being created, but at the same time, you can augment the human by you can do a quality check on your content. You can do translations with your content. Um, yeah, you can generate images faster than before. So I'm not saying again like replacing humans by any means, but like augmenting them, giving them the technology to be actually faster, more productive, and being able to push more content faster and better, right? And I'm very cautious about kind of this element of and what is being also talked in the media about like how much content is actually AI generated and things like that. So I would again like be cautious in a way that I also don't think if you just take one to one what is being created by the AI and publish it as your blog post is probably not the best strategy to do. But you should, but I would definitely encourage to drive that adoption and augment humans while creating content because it can help them tremendously. So that's the second thing, like choose the right use cases and then and do it responsibly, right? So when you implement the AI model, when you integrate it in your flows, make sure that you think about what data is going to go in, what data is going to go out, and what's the sensitivity of it, how much you rely on it. So whether you are gonna use some of your sensitive information, and so you need to be careful, like cautious about like whether the model, the foundational model is being trained on that or not, whether it's being disclosed somewhere else or not. But these are fairly standard things that nowadays every vendor would transparently tell you, like whether they do that or not. So yeah, so being excited, having the right use cases to start, and then doing it responsibly, I would say that are the three main steps.
Mm-hmm. Great. And you already brought up content creation, so we can easily talk a little bit more about that for our large enterprise customers as well at Kontent.ai. So as a content management system, we do talk to a lot of folks who are having content challenges. So could you talk about the two sides of the coin a little bit too, around sort of that augmenting automation, productivity from a content angle, but also then that responsible and secure implementation? So what should our customers be thinking about if they're not already thinking about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think from the content as from the adoption angle, what I like is definitely that use case with the translations
Mm,
where nowadays you have models that can really do well with translating your content to different languages. And I think this really like broadens your capability to address wider audience. And so yeah, we are not yet again like in a place, and I'm not sure we will ever be in a place where it would completely replace a translator themselves. But again, it can help you tremendously reduce the time in that content translation process, which can be dramatic, really,
mm,
in a sense that you can have a draft like immediately, basically, that you can just tweak then for your keywords and your tone of voice that you want to get in the target language. So, but it like AI has been there in the space of translations for a while. But again, like as we are seeing that the models are getting better and better, I would definitely encourage anybody that hasn't looked at that part and that element to go and explore it. And for the responsible side, what I would also encourage people is to uh, hold their vendors accountable in terms of safe and responsible implementation of AI, making sure that they know what they're procuring, making sure that they know what foundational models are being used, how they have been integrated, whether the vendor has undergone any certifications or follows any framework. And so things of that sort, it's great to have that confidence that you're actually procuring something that has been developed and prepared for you in a secure manner, so you can easily and safely integrate it in your flows.
hmm Have you noticed when talking to our customers that they know to ask these questions, or are you sort of having to guide the conversation because you've already looked at it from so many different angles, so many different use cases, and you are, I would say, quite focused on the space and what's happening. So I'm just curious, yeah, what do our customers need to know, or where do they even sort of start thinking about these questions if so they don't miss one, basically, and miss an important aspect of this sort of secure implementation.
Yeah, it's a good question, and we do have customers that are very thorough in their reviews. And that's great. Really, it's good to have those engagements where we see that the customers actually care about what we do with their data. I think like that's kind of the diligent way of that we would expect, and we also hold our vendors accountable, right? Because that's also what we need to do. So we have very similar approach with our suppliers, but um, yeah, so for some customers, we already see that they have questions prepared. They know what
Mm,
they want to talk about. And there are others that are not so far in that space. So yeah, we do have a bit of evangelism that needs to happen, and we like to talk
mm,
about those topics on conferences and platforms like this as well. That not the entire industry is yet tuned to actually think about AI as another area of a vendor review. It can come naturally that they are now having, because like most of our vendors also that come to us, they already have some sort of AI functionality or AI feature, right? It's now really everywhere, but not everybody is spending that the same amount of time actually telling what they've done for their product, right? So if they how they developed it and what kind of models they're using and things like that. So yeah, so for some clients are more mature than others, and I would like my tip would be, start just with simple questions. What models are you using, whether they have been, where, what happens with your data? That's kind of the simplest question. And then obviously what safeguards and how does the implementation look like from the vendor side? Like if they follow any framework, if they are certified, if they are yeah, if they're utilizing some of the best practices, if they disclose what they are doing internally, that's also an important part in pattern that shows you that the vendor is taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So being transparent, and whether they have any trust center or any like resource center where you can that you can refer to, where you would find all those pieces of information.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thanks for the tips. That's helpful. Since we're already talking about tips, I wanted to pick your brain a little bit. So you're leading and championing basically our company-wide adoption of AI, including its responsible use. So I think that's really cool. You're always in our chats and letting people know, sharing their best practices, sharing their wins, things like that. So what top tips would you share with our listeners if they want to make sure that AI is going to be successfully or interestingly or excitingly adopted in their company?
Mm. Yeah, so I think like it all starts with that well-structured communication, as you mentioned. It's good to have a platform where you share those wins, as you mentioned. Really, it's a great example how you can showcase to everybody else that look, we are utilizing it and championing it in this department, and they've used it for ABC, and it helped them to increase, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, right? So different elements, but showing the right and real world kind of data and real world successes is it's what's gonna drive your AI adoption internally, championing with some people, making them vocal, those things that really can help drive that adoption. The the other the other point, and I already touched upon that earlier, is when you are, choosing those vendors, to choose them responsibly. So do that due diligence process with your providers, with your suppliers, making sure that you know what you're procuring, how you are procuring it, and that you have all the information in place. And I would say, um, yeah, last but not least, it's like keep yourself engaged and research and analyze what's going on, because it's really, we can see changes happening like almost weekly in those AI models. We can see that happening with our vendors, with vendors, other vendors in CMS space as well, that really changes are happening on a weekly basis almost. So it's really hard to keep track, but it's really important to keep track. So and one thing that I will mention is that utilizing AI to actually keep yourself informed, it's a great way of utilizing AI, and starting with it, uh, and making sure that you know the top three, top five most important new features, functionalities, developments that happened in the space over the past days. Every now and then, it's good to have that. Um, yeah, it's good to have that lift inside of the company, because if people are aware, then they are more likely to actually engage.
Mhm. I wanted to ask you as well. You talked about due diligence when you're doing your vendor assessment. Are there any like very clear like or red flags that you when you come up against? You're like, okay, I'm getting, or is it like you're getting a bad vibe, or if they don't have something very specific outlined in their materials that we can't work with them, or what's your take on doing that due diligence, and what advice would you give to our listeners?
Yeah, I think a good place to start is your enterprise agreement or terms of service with the vendor, where if you can find already some safeguards there or some clear, I mean, like nobody's gonna hold themselves entirely liable for anything that happens, right? Like we are living in a software space, so that's not gonna be that's not gonna be the case. But like you definitely will see some elements of good practices if you look at the contractual documentation that actually is binding for the vendor. So if they would have already some security controls, for example, or some AI related controls in the contract, where they tell you, okay, we are bound by this contract to actually do ABC, for example, develop AI in a secure manner, like protect the customer data and make sure that the foundational or the main model doesn't learn from it, or like the other customers don't see that data, so it's clearly separated. So I would look for separation. I would look for security safeguards. I would look for some of the liability issues surrounding what happens if what happens with your content, what happens with for example, if you're looking at the content management space, but like what happens with your data basically um, when you put it in the system. So like in terms of service is a good place to start. Then I would say reviewing the vendor documentation, what they have on their website, how transparently they articulate what they are doing. That's another one. And then sometimes just really, if the vendor is important for you, just have a chat with their security team or representatives. Like if you like, do they have a security team? That's might be a good place to start. Like, do you have actually like somebody to talk to? And sometimes they don't, and sometimes that can be a red flag. I'm not saying that every company needs to have a security team, because it really depends on the space and on the field where they are in. But if you're in software and if you are developing something that processes data, um, potentially sensitive data, and you're utilizing I would like to see someone with some shape or form responsibility for for security and ideally privacy and ideally responsible AI practices, right? Um, so like just absence of those points could really be the red flag and ring the bell and say, hey, maybe you are not looking at the right vendor right now.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing. And if folks are really interested in learning a little bit more about these topics and making sure that they're ready to have these conversations with their vendors, where can they find more information from you, maybe as a leader who's really done a lot of work and talked to a lot of folks in this space already?
Yeah, I think we are publishing some interesting ideas and some interesting articles in our blog. So I would encourage everybody to just review the blog and then also watch social media, right? So we publish on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, so if you follow Content.ai at LinkedIn or review the blogs, especially those that are authored by myself or my team, those would be a good place to start.
All right, awesome. Thank you. So, as we wrap up today, we want to ride the content wave a little bit. So, I wanted to ask, can you recommend to our listeners a book, article, podcast, or piece of content that you yourself keep going back to again and again and again?
Yeah, I think it would be yeah, How to Influence and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, because I really like those ideas and about how to, influence others, how to actually create a change around you, because all of us are working with people, even though we are talking mostly about AI in this podcast, but there are still people all around us, and I think that book has a great content that helps you navigate those relationships. And when we were talking about some of the issues of AI adoption, right? So it's those are issues of organizational change management. And when you want to do organizational change management, you need to know how to actually influence others in order to make it successful, right? So I think it plays well. So with this podcast, and so I'm gonna use this example because it's really a good one to understand how you can make your project a success in organizational wide setting.
Hmm. Yeah, well, we need to have another episode. It seems like you also know quite a bit about organizational change management. So,
Yeah,
that's
thank you.
great.
Yeah.
Cool. So I really appreciate all the insights that you shared today with me and our listeners. So thanks so much for joining the podcast, and thanks everybody for tuning in as well. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for having me.